Preview.
This thing was hanging in space, the Earth's hemisphere visible below it, and no rivets, no seams, none of the stuff associated with normal man-made manufacturing. When we were coming about 30 or 40 feet out, there were a lot of objects, white things, flying by. It looked as if they were being propelled or ejected, but I'm not convinced of that. Those are giant things. No. This is not an optical illusion. No one is going to believe this. Houston, what the hell is happening? What's wrong with you? They're under the surface. What's there? Emission interrupted. Interference control calling Apollo 11. We saw some visitors. They were here for a while observing the instruments. Repeat your last information. I say that there were other spaceships that lined up in the other side of the crater. Repeat. Let us sound this orbiter. In 625 to 5. Automatic relay connected. My hands are shaking so badly I can't do anything. Film it. God, if these damn cameras have picked up anything, what then?
What is it that stops you believing? Why do we mock those who have witnessed the wonderful? Have you been conditioned? For decades, the government and media have played down the world of the UFO, and anybody who has experienced something out of the ordinary is made to feel like a fool. Everybody has heard the term UFO. To some, it simply means unidentified and nothing more. To others, it is the term used for extraterrestrial visitations of planet Earth. Whatever we believe, the press, and even Hollywood, love to make fun of those who have claimed to have witnessed something strange. Terms such as little green men are often used to belittle believers. And yet, literally millions of people around the globe have actually witnessed the UFO phenomena, and thousands have done so in large groups and even at events such as football matches. In this film, we investigate those mass sightings, both well known and unknown. We reveal new footage unseen before and eyewitness accounts of the most amazing sightings. You may not want to believe, but you will by the time you finish this film. One of the very first mass sightings occurred in 1561 in Nuremberg, Germany. On the morning of April the 4th, residents woke to witness glowing balls forming shapes in the sky. According to eyewitness accounts from the time, it appeared as if the orbs were battling with each other. This lasted for over an hour, and a painting from the period reveals two large black craft launching glowing orbs, crashes and multiple contacts in the sky. Years later, another mass sighting occurred in 1853 at a college campus in Tennessee. The actual sighting was reported by Professor Carnes in a letter to Scientific American. He stated that students had witnessed two bright lights in the sky. One appeared to be a small moon, while the other looked like a huge star. Quickly, the moon vanished, but the star remained and changed shape, first into an orb and then into a cigar shape. Next, the moon reappeared and grew in size as the star reduced. This process carried on for a full 30 minutes, one of the longest sightings in history. To this day, there has been no satisfactory explanation for what was witnessed, but it is a sighting that has been seen repeatedly by thousands of people around the world ever since. A few years later, in 1897, the Dallas Morning News reported a story so bizarre that elements of it have crept into numerous sci-fi movies. In the small town of Aurora, Texas, the local citizens were rudely awoken by a sighting of what they thought was an airship. Suddenly, the craft stalled and crashed violently into a nearby windmill. Wreckage was scattered over a huge area. The newspaper reported that the pilot of the ship was supposed to have been the only one aboard, and, while his remains were badly disfigured, enough of the original has been picked up to show that he was not an inhabitant of this world. Years later, the report has been called a hoax, without any real evidence of such. It seems that mass sightings no longer carries any weight with the skeptics, but in 1973, a 91-year-old woman called Mary Evans came forward. She remembered that her parents had visited the crash site, and even that the pilot, who was not of this world, had in fact been buried in the local cemetery. During the Second World War, people had become accustomed to seeing craft in the sky. In fact, it had changed a lot in a short space of time. From single-engine biplanes to jet fighters, It is unusual then that the people of Madisonville, Kentucky would be perplexed at a huge circular glowing craft floating over their town in 1948. Even the state police were concerned and alerted the Air Force. Within 20 minutes, the tower crew at Fort Knox Air Base also witnessed the object. A squadron of P-51 fighters were scrambled to investigate. The squadron leader, a highly experienced combat pilot and decorated during World War II, was on the scene. He too spotted the craft. He reported the object very readily. The thing looks metallic and is tremendous in size. Just 3 minutes later, Bon Leader Mantle was dead. Officially, the Air Force stated he had run out of oxygen and crashed. Unofficially, nobody believes a word of it. Around 11 p.m. on the 5th of November 1957, police in Levelland, Texas, received 15 phone calls from worried residents about a strange object in the sky. The sightings were reported in the press, and one particular man's story would find its way into the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind. A Korean war veteran and farm worker reported seeing a flash of light, followed by rushing wind. The lights and engine on his truck stopped working. Other witnesses described the craft, a blue-green colour and shaped like an egg that would suddenly become a fireball and blast off into the sky. In a small town in Pittsburgh in 1965, residents witnessed an object described as streaking fire across the sky. It crashed just before 6 p.m. in a local field. Bill Bullbush, a local resident, described the object as acorn-shaped and twice the size of a car. The local fireman, James Romansky, said that the craft had hieroglyphs around the bottom. Within 15 minutes of Romansky being on the scene, government and military officials arrived and everybody was ordered to leave. Some believed the object was a Russian satellite, but years later Russian officials admitted it was not one of theirs. In 2009, a journalist filed a Freedom of Information Act suit and discovered that NASA had conveniently lost the files. Between 1982 and 1986, over 5,000 UFO sightings were reported in the Hudson Valley just north of New York. But one particular night stands out due to the sheer size of the witnesses. On March the 24th, 1983, over 300 local residents called the local UFO hotline to report a huge V-shaped array of lights in the sky. For every one person who reported the sighting, it is estimated that another 9 or 10 did not. This would mean that thousands of people witnessed the strange sight. Residents who were near the lights reported the craft were huge, the size of a flying city, some would say. They were described as multicoloured lights, and unlike most human flying machines, they were stationary. There are no helicopters the size of a flying city. A very similar event occurred years later in 1997 in Nevada and Arizona. Thousands of people witnessed a massive V-shaped object with 7 lights. Some reported smaller craft, flying around the orb and triangular in shape. The local police phone lines couldn't cope. The National Guard later claimed they had released flares whilst on a training exercise. Nothing stated in the witnesses backs this up. Many claim to be able to see the mass of the craft behind the lights and that it was huge. Flares do not remain stationary for long periods of time, nor would they have formed a perfect V-shape. Very few people believe the National Guard story. In 2001, witnesses at a New Jersey turnpike were struck dumb as they witnessed the formation of yellow lights near the city. The formation was in the shape of a V, yet again, and lasted for at least 10 minutes before they faded one by one. In 2008 in Stevensville, over 40 residents, including a police officer and pilot, witnessed a UFO hovering over farmland. The policeman said it reminded him of a gushing volcano, but 3,000 feet in the air. It was estimated to be over half a mile wide, or as one witness put it, bigger than Walmart. For many years, lights and glowing orbs have been appearing over Lake Erie. There is no doubt that the lights are there. They have been seen by thousands. There is also no doubt that they are not celestial bodies or ordinary human craft. They change colour. They appear and disappear. They hover. The size is immense, being around the size of an ordinary house. Often, the orbs will divide like cells splitting in two. A third appears, and the three orbs form into triangular craft, just like many other sightings in other parts of the world. There is no denying these reports. Too many people have seen them. For some strange reason, around half of all UFO sightings occur around bodies of water. And many believe the sheer number of sightings at Lake Erie could mean that this is a meeting place, or even base, for extraterrestrials. Often, the pulsating orbs of light will submerge. What are they? Nobody knows. Everybody has heard of Roswell and the infamous crash of a UFO, but 5 years before there was something much more profound. It has become known as the Battle of Los Angeles because it happened during the Second World War. Los Angeles was, like many other cities on the shores of the USA, in blackout. It was just a few weeks after the infamous attack on Pearl Harbor.
We armed our merchants, and for the first time they steamed into combat zones to deliver Lend-Lease. While this was going on in the Atlantic, the Japs, by a so-called agreement with the puppet government of defeated France, moved in on Indochina. There were now only two threats to their plan for conquest of Greater East Asia. First was their northern neighbor, Russia, the only military power within striking distance of Japan. The Nazis were taking care of Russia. The second threat to Japanese conquest was us. Japanese southward expansion was too dangerous to attempt with our bases still standing in the Philippines and our supply lines open to Wake, to Midway, and to Hawaii. We were in their way. We had to be removed, but in the Japanese way. Off to Washington went Special Ambassador Curaçao on what the Japs said was a mission of peace, but carefully synchronized with his departure from Tokyo was the departure of a Jap task force under sealed orders, not on a mission of peace. On November 14th, Mr. Curaçao arrived in San Francisco, smiling his toothy smile as he sang the old song of Japanese friendship. The Japanese were a peace-loving people. Their whole policy was devoted to the establishment of permanent peace in Asia. Our aid to China was delaying the establishment of that peace. Our refusal to sell them oil and scrap was interfering with the establishment of that peace. Our objections to their taking over the East Indies, Greater East Asia, was an interruption in the establishment of that peace. All they wanted was peace. On November 17th, Mr. Curaçao and Ambassador Nomura were received by the President in the presence of the Secretary of State, Cordell Hull. It very quickly became clear that the Japanese had brought no new proposals and that the Japanese intended to continue their campaign to conquer China and all East Asia. However, on November 26th, our Secretary of State presented the Japanese with the basis for peaceful agreement between the two nations. The proposal was forwarded to Tokyo. The Japs had to stall for time, but only a short time. The task force was nearing its goal. Sunday, December 7th, 1941.
直ちに出発。しっかりやろうぜ。ドライブしっかりやろうぜ。よろしくおい。
1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Japanese emissaries are expected at the State Department to keep a 1 o'clock appointment they had requested in order to present their answers to our proposals. 1:05 p.m. The Japanese planes are approaching Hawaii. 1:10 p.m. The Japanese emissaries telephoned to postpone their appointment until 1:45. 1:20 p.m. 2 p.m. The Japanese envoys, smiling and correct, arrive at the State Department. 2:20 p.m. Japanese planes had been sowing death and destruction for an hour on American outposts in the Pacific.
Deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific.
We were not sufficiently on the alert in Hawaii. The Japanese won a series of spectacular victories in the Pacific. Under General Douglas MacArthur, American and Filipino forces fought a fabulous delaying action in the Philippines. Manila was bombed, although it was declared an open city. Because of vast distances, it was impossible to send supplies or reinforcements, and Bataan fell only when Americans and Filipinos had eaten their mules. General MacArthur established his headquarters in Australia, and as Commander-in-Chief of the United Nations forces in that area, prepared for the offensive that would develop inevitably. For despite setbacks, we had established a supply chain 6,000 miles across the Pacific that stretched to New Zealand. Like the other democracies, we were not prepared for total war. Fortunately, under the Lend-Lease Act of March 1941, we had set out to become the arsenal of the free and fighting nations. We were determined to supply them with our war goods whether they could afford to pay or not. We were buying time. Time to convert the industries of peace into war. Time to make ships, merchant ships and warships. Time to make planes and more planes, bombers and fighters, faster, more powerful than any the world had ever seen. Time to make guns and more guns, shells and more shells, tanks and more tanks. Time to gather a huge strength which was ours, to pour the great riches of American earth into the cauldron of war. America was at war. It had been at war, although few Americans realized it, for more than 10 years. Ever since September 18, 1931, when Japan clawed Manchuria out of the body of China. While Hitler was still brawling in the streets of Munich, Japan had already begun weaving the pattern of aggression. And the warriors of Japan, still breathing the spirit of samurai in an era of machines, adopted Western methods of warfare, as they had adopted Western clothes and architecture and music. And the Japanese warriors dreamt of the conquest of Asia and then of the world. And their emperor invoked the blessings of the divine upon this dream.
And the United States was in panic. They were expecting attacks on their Pacific seaboard, and all eyes were on the skies. One night, a huge aircraft appeared over Santa Monica and Culver City. Everybody assumed it was a Japanese attack craft, unlike anything they'd seen before. Thousands of air raid wardens ran around trying desperately to secure the citizens. Anti-aircraft batteries fired thousands of rounds at the object, and the powerful searchlights trained thousands of eyewitnesses onto the vessel. Los Angeles and Southern California went into lockdown. Gun batteries reported direct hits, and yet the craft hung in the sky, virtually motionless. Witnesses reported American fighter planes were sent up, and yet the military deny any planes were dispatched. Waves of fake eyewitness accounts went up against a massive ship. Eventually, they appeared to be called off. Ground forces let loose with everything they had for over half an hour. 6 people died as a result of the flak from ground forces defending them. Eventually, the craft moved down to Long Beach and disappeared. A sighting seen by hundreds of thousands of people was in the LA Times, which ran a small sidebar article. To this day, the event is unexplained. Another mass sighting occurred in Vancouver, Canada, during a game of baseball. It was the start of the 6th inning when suddenly hundreds of people started tweeting images of glowing light. One Harvard professor of psychology and Pulitzer Prize winner said later that the event seems to have been what they said it was, an invitation. It had a circular shaped bright light as the leader, and behind it were tails of light in beautiful colours, green, orange and yellow. It moved slowly and looked as if it would. A few years later, Mac was hit by a drunken driver in London and killed. In China, a spate of mass UFO sightings occurred and even disrupted airline travel. Dozens of witnesses saw glowing lantern objects that formed into diamond shapes and hovered for an hour. Another glowing V-shaped object was spotted by hundreds of witnesses in the same area. As in other areas of the world, the glowing orbs changed colour. In 2010, a mass sighting in southern Russia caused a stir. In fact, The former head of the Kalmykia Republic actually claimed to have met with the extraterrestrials and urged his fellow citizens not to be afraid of coming forward with their own experiences. Residents in the Republic's city of Elista saw UFOs every month. The craft formed concentric rings in the sky that rotated. Others saw triangles or V-shapes of glowing light. In 2009, in Punjab in India, there was a mass sighting of glowing UFOs. Lights crisscrossed the city for over 2 hours before finally disappearing. What is revealed by all these mass sightings, and there are literally hundreds of them, is that no matter how hard the media and government try to dumb it down, the experience of real human beings still continues. It continues across the world. People who have no access to television or internet see the same things as the rest of the world. Children who have no desire to make money or any other motive see the same thing. Professionals, from policemen to lawyers, from government officials to fighter pilots, witness things they simply cannot explain. Similarities in sightings are mind-blowing. Glowing, multicoloured lights that form into unnatural shapes, hover and then disappear. All the old explanations fall very short of answering the questions. Military craft would not hover above a highly populated city for hours. Swamp gases don't form into V-shapes, hover and change colour. Denying these craft are from another world does not answer anything. The evidence is there. Thousands upon thousands of people have now seen these craft, and it increases every year. They cannot all be wrong. Denial is not evidence. Surely, with so many sightings in so many places, all matching, there has to be a singular, common answer to the mystery. Yes, we have technology that the ordinary man does not know about, but sightings have stretched throughout time and remained the same or similar. Our technology advances. We have moved from biplanes to jet spy planes, but the alien craft have remained the same. During the Second World War, hundreds of fighter pilots witnessed glowing orbs flying around. The orbs seemed to play with them as if intelligent. Some human aircraft were even damaged. Humans did not have such technology at that time, and these Foo Fighters, as they became known, are the very same thing witnessed by thousands of people ever since.